Good evening on this Sunday evening. I hope your weekend would have gone well. And as we continue to look at the different sectors and the performance of our country and our economy in keeping accountable to the people, I wish today for us, this evening, for us to examine jobs and investment. Jobs and investment are critical for the expansion of the private sector, for a healthy economy, for a sustainable economy, and it's the litmus test in relation to government's policies and programs and investment. Government's policies, programs, and investment must lead to economic expansion, must lead to confidence in the economy, and let us examine what were the impacts with the government policies and programs in the last 4 years. And as you know, we have various comparative advantages in the region. We are the fastest growing economy. We have the ideal location to access global markets. We are a resource-rich country. We have fiscal incentives for investment. We have multi-sector opportunity. We have a diverse portfolio of business opportunity. We are a very private sector focused government. We pride ourselves on developing strategies that carry very low operational costs, and diverse cultures and heritage is part of inherent advantage. Now, it is important for us to look at the two periods of two governments, the APNU AFC government and the People's Progressive Party civic government. And one of the great indicators in terms of confidence of the economy, in terms of how the private sector perceive the economy, how investors perceive the economy, the level of comfort and confidence persons have in government and government policies, we have to look at private sector credit. And if you look at this graph, it demonstrates to you private sector credit under the APNU AFC and private sector credit under the People's Progressive Party civic government. You will see under the APNU period that there was very low confidence in the economy, very low confidence in the government, very low confidence in the policies of the government. That is why you will see a very flat period, very flat private sector growth, very flat private sector credit, very flat investment or credit to the private sector. Unlike the rectangular block you see in red, that demonstrates to you the period of the rectangle there, demonstrate to you the period of the People's Progressive Party civic government. You can see every year continued expansion in private sector credit, confidence in the economy, confidence to invest. And as a result, credit to the private sector increased by more than 60% from June 2020 to June 2024. From the time we came into government to mid of 2024, private sector credit or credit to the private sector grew by 60%. That is more than 3 times the growth in the entire APNU AFC period. Unlike the private sector growth, what took place under the APNU AFC was a crowding out of the private sector. Because what they were doing, they were just borrowing and borrowing and borrowing with no end of improving productivity or increasing opportunities for the private sector of the population. So under the APNU AFC, the government was borrowing and out-borrowing the private sector. For a matter of fact, domestic credit to the central government, that is loans to the central government from the local banking institution, increased from $28 billion in 2014 to $148 billion. So the government increased their borrowing from the private institution, the private sector, the banks, by 428%. Can you imagine that? And this was what collapsed our economy in the past. The same philosophy of the APNU AFC government, the PNC APNU AFC government, borrowing, 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 and not creating wealth. So the government borrowing during their period in government increased by 428%. That is, credit to the central government grew by 16 times higher. Imagine this. that the credit from the commercial banks to the central government was 16 times higher than credit to the private sector. Credit to the government was 16 times higher than credit to the private sector. That is why we had the private sector regressing, tens of thousands of persons losing their jobs, loss of productivity, loss of competitiveness, and the private sector went into complete chaos. Many of the companies went into bankruptcy. Let us now look at private sector investment by every sector. And let us look at the last 4 years, and you will see the diversification program and policies of the government, how it's taking effect, how the broad-based economic expansion that we're investing in is taking effect. If you look at this slide, you will see that in 2020, and by sectors, there are private sector investment, and this is not government investment. And for the private sector to invest in each of these sectors, they have to have confidence in the government policies. They have to see sustainability. They have to see profitability. And as a result of these investments, tens of thousands of jobs in every sector has been created. So if you look at agriculture, for example, in the mid-2020, when we came into office, to mid-2024, private investment in agriculture went from $12.5 billion to $24.6 billion, an increase of 97%. That is the investment we are making in D&I, the investment we are making in farm-to-market access road, the support to our farmers, the confidence that has been instilled back in the agricultural sector. Look at manufacturing. Private sector investment in manufacturing went from $15.1 billion to $22.3 billion, an increase of 47%. The incentivizing of the manufacturing sector, creating wealth, creating new industries, expanding existing industries, creating jobs, a 47% increase in private sector credit from the time we came into government to mid-2024 in manufacturing. Look at construction. And as I said, this is private sector investment. In construction, $10.6 billion when we came into office to $24.4 billion by the mid of 2024. That's a 93% increase. 93% increase in private sector investment in construction. That is the confidence people have in building their own facilities, their own commercial buildings, their own office complexes, their own apartment buildings, their own homes. Then look at mining. Mining lost tens of thousands of jobs. Persons were coming out of mining. When we came into office to now, private sector credit investment in mining went from $4.2 billion to $6.9 billion, an increase of 65% from the time we came into government to now. Other services, from $47.8 billion to $107.2 billion, an increase of 124%. This is the positive reaction. This is the confidence that the private sector investors have in the economy. The real estate mortgages increased from $88.7 billion when we came into office to $140.2 billion, an increase of 58%. 58% increase. That is the confidence. That is what we brought back to this country. Confidence, investors' confidence, jobs, expansion of every sector, expansion of the economy. Let us look at foreign direct investment. And the story is the same. Between 2021 and 2023, and foreign direct investment is what the outside world is thinking of us. The attractiveness of our country as an investment destination. Between 2021 and 2023, FDI amounted to $16.1 billion, more than 3 times the level reported under the APNU AFC government for the entire period. Just between 2021 and 2023, 3 times the entire period between 2015 and 2019, $16.1 billion. Between 2021 and 2023, Guyana reported the highest FDI inflows in the Caribbean, according to the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. Further, in 2023, there were inflows of US $7.198 billion, a 64% increase over 2022, positioning Guyana as the sixth largest inward FDI recipient country in Latin America and the Caribbean. Imagine that. The sixth largest. And who are we competing with? We have Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia. Those huge economies ahead of us. And we were able to attract more FDI than all the other countries. This is the substance of our governance. When we came to the people in 2020, we promised 50,000 jobs. I am only looking here at the sustained jobs, because when you look at temporary jobs in the construction sector, when you look at the indirect jobs from Gaisuku, the indirect jobs from forestry, and indirect jobs is also linked to the markets. You'll recall that many markets were shut down when Gaisuku was shut down. I'm not talking about those indirect jobs. I am talking about sustained jobs in every single sector. We have surpassed the target of 50,000 jobs, and we have been able to sustain more than 60,000 jobs. The construction sector, more than 29,000, 30,000 jobs. The forestry sector, more than 11,000. The oil and gas, more than 6,500. Tourism, more than 8,700. Mining, more than 5,000. Gaisuku rehired 2,000. And let me say this to you. I am not even talking about the tens of thousands of additional jobs that we are already training people for, that we are investing in through the Tourism and Hospitality Institute, the new nursing schools. All of these things would add to the expansion of jobs in our economy. When you look at housing, housing was practically dead under the APNUFC government. Over the past 4 years, the housing sector has been re-energized. We've invested more than $244 billion in housing. This is where our resources go. We've been able to allocate more than 41,000 house lots. We've been able to regularize more than 26 quarter settlements, bringing home ownership to more than 4,200 persons so they can be empowered. They can own their own title, their own transport. They can get a loan. They can improve their living conditions, improve their disposable income. They can have a loan now to go into small businesses, medium-sized enterprises. That is how you empower people. By creating the mechanism, the ecosystem to make them and their families more viable. If you look at tax incentives, the mortgage interest relief ceiling, we increased it from 15 million to 30 million, putting back more than $2.4 billion at the end. That is only the end of 2023. More than $2.4 billion directly back in the pockets of ordinary people to help them to own their own homes. That is what we have delivered. Innovative programs like the Homestead for single mothers, building 500 homes, but not just homes, giving them economic opportunities with those homes so they can increase their disposable income. They can have sustainable revenue to repay their mortgages. Empowering them, giving them value, improving their net worth. That is what we've been investing in. Almost 2,000 homes have been completed under the Young Professional Homes Program, giving our young people not only home ownership, but dignity and pride in the communities in which they are living. Another 1,500 homes are in the process of completion. By the time we finish the first quarter of this year, almost 3,500 young professional homes will be completed. That is what we're delivering every single day to the people of our country. And as a result of these investments, as a result of the expansion in the economy, and this is the real numbers. This is what I'm giving you, the real numbers. Visitor arrival, which was 86,000 in 2020, increased more than 3.6-fold to 319,000 during 2023. More than 319,000 tourism businesses and guides. More than 238 tourism businesses and guides has been licensed since we came into office. The highest on record. Currently, 95% of our operators have been licensed. If you look at hotel investment, we've attracted 14 hotels, increasing room capacity by 48%, investment of more than $295 million. More than 8,400 tourism stakeholders were trained at almost a cost of $100 million. We've been able to attract 6 new airlines. And Vision 2030 is to have another 5,000 rooms in our economy, because tourism and investment in tourism is another important pillar of the modern economy that we are building. When you look at health, the hospitals, $108 billion in hospitals, 6 new regional hospitals to ensure we have world-class health care. Health centers, more than $12 billion in new health centers across every single region in the country. Medical supplies, between 85% and 90% of drugs and medical supplies are now available in the health sector. This is what we're doing, real changes, real development. The public healthcare system is now able to provide a wide array of service. Dental service, a total of 57 clinics are distributed across the country, with each region now assigned a dental surgeon. Each region now assigned a dental surgeon. Medical records, the digitization of medical record, more than 50 telemedicine sites, ensuring the equitable access to healthcare, building a healthcare system that delivers equitable access and equitable service. We have disease surveillance, proactively moving in surveillance of diseases, biomedical hubs. Consistent with Vision 2030, the government is establishing biomedical hubs in Guyana, reducing our dependence on imported medical supplies. Medical tourism, we're laying the groundwork, incentivizing private sector investment and FDI into the health sector so that we can position Guyana as an important market for medical tourism. The story is the same for education. We've invested more than $54.6 billion in education since we came into office. We have constructed 34 schools. More than 34 new schools were constructed or extended. We have maintained more than 350 nursery schools, 440 primary schools, and 115 secondary schools, bringing world-class education, quality education. The government added 7 classrooms last year to schools in Region 2, 4, 6, and 9. E-education, 7,000 computing devices were distributed across the country. We are now launching our first Guyana Digital School, the One Guyana Digital Program, the coding program. All of this is to bring our students and our children, giving them access to first world learning experiences. The physical infrastructure, if you look at the infrastructure and investment in infrastructure, in urban roads, since 2020, we have had more than 3,724 miscellaneous roads completed, 84 urban roads, and 2,000 miles of hinterland road at a cost of more than $121 billion. Highway development, we have new highways all across our country. Precast steel concrete bridge, more than $10.45 billion spent on medium and large precast bridges. New bridges, we have the new Demerara River Bridge. We'll launch before the end of the year the Barbies River Bridge. And of course, we're in discussion with Suriname on launching the Quarantine River Bridge. The Linden to Mabura Road, an investment of $190 million US. The water port for Barbies, all of these are investment that is leading to the full transformation of our country. The full transformation of our country. So you see, my friends, our investment is geared towards economic expansion, towards wealth creation, towards job generation, towards the expansion of the private sector, and towards building a strong, resilient Guyana. A Guyana that is democratic, strong, and resilient, and a Guyana that brings prosperity to every single home. Once again on this Sunday, I thank you for your time and wish you a great, great evening.